So we're doing sort of soup to nuts here tonight, where that is, we're going to begin with just the process of shooting a web series, and Toru's going to
Yeah, so I'll be handling that part of the Q&A. So we're just going to do an overview. It's not, obviously we don't have time to go in depth here, but we'll just sort of do an overview of just sort of the basic, some technical aspects or issues that as a filmmaker you may be dealing with. So that's what I'll be doing, about 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Oh, are we doing that now? All right, let's do it now. No time like the present. Okay, so so basically right now, I don't really want to address any of the technical issues in terms of distribution or anything like that. So really I'm just talking about just whatever technical issues are dealing with as far as just creating the physical product. And my first question was, now I guess I'm your basic nerd and I like to buy equipment. And so I went out and bought a bunch of equipment. Whatever the DSLRs and the, light kits, blah, blah, blah. Now, my question is, if you're a filmmaker and you want to make a web series and you want to continue doing that, that's something you want to be doing, is it a good idea to go to the ATM and pull out $500, $1,000, $2,000, go out and buy a bunch of equipment? And if so, if that is the case, what are you going to do with that cash? There's any, and if you feel like, if that's not a good idea?
I think that's filmmaker contingent. Depends on who's taking out the cash. If it's a good investment or not.
We'll assume that you have it. Yeah.
Great. I mean,
come talk to us.
I think that, is this on? Yeah. I think that buying or spending, if you only have a certain amount of money, I think spending it on buying equipment is not the best way to spend your money. I think there's plenty of people and resources in this town and plenty of people who have equipment, and renting equipment is a lot cheaper than purchasing. And maybe you try it one time and you don't want to do it again, right? Why would you invest in something like that? I think you should invest in making a good product, and it's better, to spend your money on things that end up on screen, and keeping people happy, like feeding people, might be a good way to spend that money. You think about the long hours that people put into being on set. So I think purchasing equipment maybe isn't the best way to spend the money.
I would say the one exception to that is if you are planning to be a DP, or if you're planning to be a sound person, or you're planning to be a gaffer, then you may want to look into purchasing those things, because you can then charge others to use that equipment by hiring you. Because like Allison says, a lot of the reasons DPs or sound people or lighting people get hired is because they come with their own equipment.
Right.
So
and chances are when you find a
is,
DP, your DP will come with equipment.
Right. So I think really it's whether you're coming at it from a producer's perspective or coming at it from a specific job perspective. Like if you're a DP, then yes, maybe I do want to invest in a specific camera. Maybe as a sound person, I do want to go out and buy some really good lavs and learn how to use them so that then I have a saleable skill.
So your feeling is, though, that you're talking about just spending nothing on equipment. So that's what I'm hearing.
I mean, not necessarily nothing. Just if you only have $5,000, you shouldn't be spending $1,000 buying equipment. I think that there are people out there, especially if we're talking about low budget. If we're trying to make these things for not our yearly salary. Then find somebody who's really amazing at what they do, like a DP who's really amazing that has some equipment, and work out a deal where you're paying them for them and their equipment at the same time. So you're spending money. You're not asking people to do things for free, hopefully, right? I mean, that happens too, unfortunately. But package things together like that.
Okay. Well, that being said, okay, now that we're hiring DPs or hiring them, what's the least that a filmmaker really should know technically? I mean, we'll assume, maybe you start out with none, with no knowledge of the technical aspects of filmmaking. You may or say you didn't go to film school. what's the minimum you need to know to keep a set running? You're dealing with, you're dealing with a very technical medium. So how do you guys address
Just
that?
bring in people that know what they're doing. You bring in the experts. You hire the experts for a couple $100. Let's say you're doing a web series and just have them do it. They already went to film school and there's a lot of, this town is overrun in a good way with technically sound people.
So
Yeah.
Kathy Reinking, who's talking right now, is a very well-known casting director. Her first web series she had as a director a DP with whom I've worked. And-
She gets paid as a DP, but then she directs.
Right.
I liked her
And
work
then
so
she
much. I
brought
hired
on-
it, and she brought the most amazing team. so I let her
from film school,
They're all
right.
like USC graduates.
Right.
Okay, so
I-
my next question would be, how do you go about finding these people? How did you guys find your technical team? And
To some extent, yeah, it depends what kind of filmmaker you want to be. If you're going to be a one-man studio, you have to know more, obviously, and you'll
Yeah.
save yourself money by doing that. But like mentioning bringing on people to your team,
yeah,
a lot of us did it through networking. Have all worked together from going to filter parties or whatever back in the day, and I think that's where I met you, Jen.
Yeah.
And and just different networking things. I'm looking at how I met people. There's so many out there now, and that we're all online and all on Twitter. You can actually make connections with people pretty easily.
Yeah, and I think that's really a key part of our conversation, in fact, about making web series, the incredible community that exists, that
You could
produces stuff all the time.
maybe even look like if you see an actor that you really like, or you see a DP that is amazing on a different web series, it's pretty easy to find that person's name, contact them, and they'd be like, hey, I'd love to buy you coffee and pick your brain. Maybe there's something we could work on together.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like even before you enter a networking event, you should be watching content. And you should look at it and go, ooh, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is similar to what I want to do. Usually if you have an idea in your head and you want to bring it to life, there's stuff out there that you can look at that's not exactly your idea, but can give you inspiration. And you can, you look at things, you're like, oh, I like the way this is shot. Who shot this? And then when you go into these things, you know who you're approaching.
Now, are these folks typically expensive, or are they free, or what?
They're not free. You should no. I don't think anybody should work for free, but they're not expensive.
And there are a lot of times people want something for their real talented people.
I don't think actors should do anything for free,
Okay.
unless it's theater.
Yeah.
$100. You can like we and the
Oh,
thing
okay.
that I produced, we
I-
had 30
I call
actors,
that
and
for
I
free.
paid
That's for free, right? That kind
$100.
of
Well, $100 a day at least pays for gas and
absolutely,
you
it's
know.
like a stipend. That's
it's a
great.
stipend.
Yeah.
It's not. You're right. It's not a living wage, but it's better than working for free.
Right.
I think the good thing about the web series community, and I feel like this is still true, that everybody is pretty accessible still. It's a really it's still a small community in a way, and when you go to these events, you could walk up to somebody and talk to them and let them know that you watch the show, and everyone's pretty supportive too, and that's kind of how we've all met and worked together before. So you should feel like you should be able to approach people, ask them questions, and yeah, if you see someone's work, absolutely approach them, and you can work anything out.
Once you meet one person, then you have that connection and probably some of their connections, because you can say, hey, I'm looking to do this. Allison, do you have a great sound guy you work with? I don't know any sound guys. And all of a sudden you'll get, tons of great recommendations.
I think there was an earlier question that was asked about if you're not technical, what to look for. I was just going to throw in. I think there's one thing you want to make sure sounds good on your show if you don't know anything is your sound. Nothing makes any show sound cheap or seem cheap than bad sound. It can even if it's not shot the best, you can play with that. But bad sound is really hard to fix and mask, and it has cheap. I don't know what the hell I'm doing written all over it when it doesn't come out right.
Yeah.
And it can leave the wrong impression. The other thing that was asked about where to find technical people, Craigslist is a good source of. Craigslist is a great way. A lot of people, even if they have experience, a lot of VPs, directors, writers, producers, everybody wants to get in on the web series. It's the new thing. They may have a bunch of TV credits or film credits. They have no web series credits. So sometimes you can get a good sound person, a good DP, someone that's got a lot of experience, just because they I think someone was saying earlier, what they're getting out of it, hey, I get to have a credit that I've done this cool thing. And they're not looking at it. They know it's like doing theater. No, it's not. They're not going to get rich doing it. So, but yeah, there's a vast network out there of people looking to get into this.
Okay, so maybe before I kind of hand you guys off to Richard, is sort of based on that, is there just anything technically oriented? Is there any piece of advice or any pearls of wisdom that you would hand, maybe hard lessons that you learned on set that you can maybe share with it? Is there anybody have something come to mind?
Feed everybody.
What did you say?
Feed everybody.
And you can actually do that remarkably affordably. A lot of places, if you ask them to sponsor your show and you put their logo at the end, you can get some free food tossed your way. A lot of places will do that.
Another thing I try to do is if the crew and the cast is small enough and it's accessible enough, I will cook for
Yes,
the
you
crew.
have. It's good.
Because there's nothing like a home cooked meal to get everybody like really excited. So
So
You also want to be flexible. For example, the web series I did, I originally planned to do it in a coffee house, and I realized I was going to have to deal with permits and traffic and just all these other things, and which would limit my time. And so I reimagined the same idea, but what if one of the girls is married to a guy with a lot of money? She doesn't have to go to work. What if she has someone that serves her, that works for them? And I basically took it from the coffee house to the house, where they meet at a house, and there's someone there that kept us in a controlled environment. We could shoot as long as you wanted to shoot, didn't worry about permits, and so again, you can be flexible with your idea. The same way you do in theater. You know, I've seen the Titanic staged on a 40-foot stage. So.
I did a web series that did not get on because the producers would not yield on locations. The producer-writer had a scene in an elevator, in an office building, another scene in a car. There was no way. I mean, I would guess the thing that I would look at is what you've got in terms of location, what you've got for free, and see if you can stage everything there.
I mean, I think that goes for everything, not just locations. I mean, it really comes down to what resources do you have, who's around you, and being flexible. I mean, we're not going to be able to make, a multi-million-dollar web series, most likely, right? Unless if somebody in here has $1 million, I'll take it. So yeah, I mean, it's all about what you have at your disposal, and and I'm going to come from it from a different standpoint because I make feature films, and I'm out there shooting here in New York. Try to go through the right channels, though. I mean, in terms of permits, I know we all do it. I didn't say that, but you should go and go through the right channels to make sure that you're legally shooting. Anywhere you shoot in Los Angeles, you do need a permit. So, try not to. You don't want to get that reputation, especially if you want to continue working in this industry in this city. You don't want to get put on a list somewhere.
There's ways to do it, indeed.
We're talking about community, so why don't we start there? Michael Ajacque runs something called LA Web Fest. Talk a little bit about LA Web Fest, what that is.
LA Web Fest stands for the Los Angeles Web Series Festival. It's a festival I started about 5 years ago. I made my first web series, and my editor and I pretty much were watching it. We'd invite a couple of friends to come and watch it in his little edit bay, and I thought, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could share this with more friends, more people, and not just have my show, but have other shows in it as well. And that's kind of was the germ of the idea, and it was
You
done
started in 2010,
2010.
right?
It was done in a small theater, 99-seat theater. I knew of
And
the
you had
theater.
like 100 and something people web series, right?
Yeah, we had 50. We just had 50, and
Oh,
that was in
right.
2010. And it was done in the theater because I have a theater background.
And where are you now?
And now we're at the Hilton, Universal City this year, which is it's pretty cool. Moving on up, we were at the Radisson for 3 years, Radisson Hotel. I see a couple of faces here who've been in the festival. A lot of actors.
And not
on the
only
festival.
did they show film, not only do you show web series, but this is an opportunity for people to meet and greet, right?
Yeah, people come, they network, they meet each other from all over LA, as well as the United States, as well as the world. We have people coming in from Italy, France, Spain, Dominican Republic, Brazil. It's an incredible, huge community of creators taking place all over the world. And I had no idea when I started. I just thought it was LA, New York. I didn't know it was this huge underground.
Right, you've got a branch in Marseille now, right?
Yes. A year after my festival, I helped start one in France, in the south of France, in Marseille, the Marseille Web Fest. And then there's one in Australia. They came out of my festival, and then Italy. Now there's 26 festivals around the world.
And not only that, but there are a ton of places where people who are making web series can meet other people, right? You guys spend a lot of time there. Yeah, I mean, when I've talked to you, you've met and greeted a lot of people at a lot of places, right? So where have you gone?
Yeah, Jenny. Where'd he go? Where are you gonna meet the people?
Tube Filter used to be the
Yeah.
right?
I think one of the first, Tube Filter is an online publication that covers the web space, and they really started this whole trend of like, hey, we're a community, so we should have events where we come together.
Started the streamies.
And they're still doing them.
Yeah.
And then they also started the Streamies, which was the first award show for web series.
Streaming.
The Streamies.
Streamies. Yes.
There are quite a few award shows. now
there is, yeah, I mean,
that was
that-
like
there-
the first big touted Oscars web.
So another really large event that covers the web space is VidCon,
Yes.
which is in Anaheim. It's web series and also personality-driven content. Your vloggers is a big. I mean, that's a whole.
And
other,
it's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy.
What?
It's crazy, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's we went down there this year, and it's literally 15 to 18-year-olds filling a convention center. You would think the Beatles are there, like they'll just follow screaming, crying, fainting after these boys. I was like, who was? Hey, are you okay? First of all, who was that you were chasing? Sorry, I'm old. And they were like, they're Vine stars. They're like really, really famous. I was like, oh, sorry. Great, they make 8-second videos. I'll go die. But it's hordes of really famous in their own right, because that age group, the 15 to 18-year-olds and stuff, they're not watching TV. They're watching web. Because TV is old, it's what the parents do, gross. They spend all day watching YouTube videos, and these are their celebrities. It's a different, totally, you gotta think about it different. It's not the same medium.
Jenny, you started actually, as I recall, you were doing a reality show, and you had some time on your hands, and you were back, 2006, 2007?
Yeah, 2006. I was working on a reality show called Lisa Williams, Life Among the Dead. And it was about this lady who talked to dead people. And she did it with her 5-year-old son, and it was really creepy. And my entire job was to wait for tapes to come in from the field, and then I would write on a piece of paper that they came in, and then I would carry them to an editor and say, okay, make the show. And it was really boring. But I had a computer. So while I was waiting for tapes, I started watching internet videos. And one of the things I watched a lot was Lonely Girl 15. And this was back in the day when people thought it was a real girl.
I don't know if
walking in a
people
room.
know. Does everybody know Lonely Girl 15? Oh yeah, explain this.
So Lonely Girl 15 was a girl named Bree who was homeschooled and was vlogging in her bedroom because her parents bought her a camera to help her fill the time. And as she started doing these videos, it started to be a little weird, where she was talking about how she was in a strange religion and she was preparing for a ceremony, and then people started to wonder what was
Conspiracy
going on.
theories.
And eventually it came out that it was a scripted show, and the fans actually figured this out by tracking an IP address to CAA, because one of the creators worked in the mailroom at CAA, and this fan sent them a letter saying, or not an email saying, hey, I respect the show. If you don't come out as this being fake within a week, I'm going to out you. And so they did, and it snowballed, and people freaked out because they were like, wait, because no one had thought to use this YouTube thing for storytelling. I thought this was genius, and I made it my mission to not only start working on this show, but to start getting into web content. And
you were being paid enormous amounts of money to do that, right?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
At my reality TV job, my job was considered a producer level, and the creators of Lonely Girl 15 actually did reach out to me because they said, hey, you're a fan of the show. We recognize that. You have a background in film. We need help. We can only hire you as a PA at minimum wage. And I was like, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
Because I believed in the medium, and I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be part of that.
And then you moved on. You saw Gorgeous. What is it called? Gorgeous
You
Tiny
love Gorgeous
Chicken.
Tiny Chicken
It's an
Machine
amazing show. It's insane.
I actually didn't work on that show,
But you worked with Kim Evey.
I worked with Kim Evey on The Guild. So I worked on 2 seasons of The Guild. I was Felicia Day's assistant for a year and a half, which was really when I learned the ropes of working in digital. And after that, she basically said, you're too good to be an assistant, go produce. And I went, no, money. Because again, I had to start over again. And then I just started producing things that I was really passionate
And
about.
now she has an Emmy.
And now I have an
She has an Emmy, right? Right. Lizzie Bennett Diaries.
Yeah. So I guess the moral of the story is keep quitting jobs and you'll get an Emmy. I don't know.
Now, Kathy Ranking had a completely different experience producing something for the web. What
Yes.
was, yeah.
I worked on Emmy-winning TV shows as a casting person,
Yeah.
but definitely haven't won my own. But anyway, I've been a casting director for 20 years, and I wanted to tell some of my own stories. And I figured the only way to do it was on the web. It's got a DIY, I just thought, oh, I'm just going to go make something. It's like putting on a play, although I've put on plays before, but I thought, well, it's cooler to do something on the web, which is kind of sad because I love theater. But anyway, I just started writing. I raised money on Kickstarter. I formed a team. I had never produced before. I've written, but I've never made anything from something I've written. So it was just really exciting and probably the most creative time, but also I made the least amount of money during this period when I started working on web series and more personal projects.
Are you getting a trend here, by the way? Okay. Yeah. What's new? Exactly. Yeah. So go on. Yeah.
What else? Oh,
So you made it, and then
So I had no money to make it with. So I did a Kickstarter campaign, a successful Kickstarter campaign. In fact, I've done 2 Kickstarter campaigns in the last year, which is really way too torturous. I mean, you start it and you're like, this sucks. Nobody's gonna give any money. I'm begging for money. This is ridiculous. And then you come out the other end and you realize that you have a lot of people in the world that want to help you. And it's really quite beautiful. But you have to get over your own insecurity. So, yeah.
So what is Kickstarter? Is it like
It's a crowd funding resource. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like Indiegogo, Kickstarter. There's a bunch of other things, but well, you have
Go
to.
check it
It's a
out.
job.
Go
It's a
see other
full-time
shows
job.
Yeah,
that
it is
are
a
on
full-
there.
Do it.
We're going to have a Q&A, a full half hour. So hold on. Yeah. So wait a minute. You've got more. You made this. You actually got around to making this thing. And how did you get it on the web?
Then I just started asking around people that I knew, like, where should I go? And I wanted to find a platform, so I just asked some manager friends, because I'm a casting director, I know a lot of actor managers, and I went to them and just said, hey, where should I go with this? And somebody suggested I go to First Run TV, which I'd never heard of. And they watched it, and they're like, oh, this is really cool. We'll put it up. So it's up there now. It's First Run TV. And I have a contract with them. I haven't made any money at all. But I feel really good that people can go watch it.
Yeah. So a lot of people want to place their show on some kind of multi-channel network or platform. What is it again? Not
First
one.
Run
First
TV.
Run has like 6 shows. And so if you're watching a show on First Run and you like it, you may watch another show on First Run, etc. You have, what is your connection with Pemberley Digital?
I I produced the Lizzie Bennett Diaries.
And nothing. And so there are how many shows on?
Well, they've done 4 now.
Yeah.
So I actually did casting on all 4, and I produced the first 3. It was Lizzie Bennett Diaries was our first. Then we went on to do Welcome to Sanditon, which is one of Jane Austen's. It's her unfinished novel.
Right.
And then we did Emma Approved, which was based on Emma, and they're just finishing up Frankenstein, so they went a different direction. And no,
Yes.
with PBS Digital. So yeah.
Yes. So another form of platform, although all those shows are connected, they come from
Well,
sort
Pemberley
of the same
Digital is a
source.
production company.
Ye-
Pemberley Digital
Is a
is
production.
a production company, but still all the content lives on YouTube, which is
right.
the largest platform for
Right. For
putting up
multi-channel.
your-
Right.
Well, there's
Content.
channels in YouTube, like the MCNs. It's confusing. You think the MCNs are like channels on YouTube, YouTube being the TV,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Right.
Like
Right.
Machinima or Decca and stuff. Those are
So Pemberley Digital is not a channel
No.
on it's a production company just on YouTube. So when I will search for specific shows.
Well, Lizzie Bennett Diaries lives
Which
on a
is-
channel called Lizzie Bennett
Yes, I know.
because we were creating it in the ecosystem that Lizzie was real, and this was Lizzie's channel, and Lizzie was telling the story. So to see her content, you go to her channel.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And at the same time, you're producing, this is a transmedia project, right?
Now we're getting crazy.
crazy.
Yes,
Down the
let's
rabbit hole.
talk about
getting crazy.
transmedia.
Politics.
So I want to point out that what Kathy did is not transmedia. She had something on, and like my web series, if it had ever gotten on, would have been a standalone web series. People would have looked at it and said, what a wonderful actor he is, but unfortunately not. And Andrea Lewin, also, what your experience was?
Yeah, I have 2 series, and both of them are standalone. So I did a one-woman stage show called Slanted, and so the director of Slanted and her name is Christina Anderlini, we adapted it to a web series, and we co-wrote a TV pilot. So that's how it started. It actually, the first episode started as a short, and we really didn't know what we were doing at all, and we had no mentors, we had no money, nothing, and
We had lunch.
What?
That's right. We had lunch right about then when you were developing it.
Oh, did we? Yeah. I associate produced a film that actually Paula was in, so we go way back. So that's how it started, and then we just kept writing and kept putting more episodes up. So that's how Slanted started.
And you simply uploaded it then to YouTube, right?
YouTube and Funny or Die, yeah.
Uh-huh.
We didn't even, honestly, my partner came from a directing, producing background with videos and EPKs, and I was solely an actress and a writer, but we wanted to collaborate and put our projects up and get our friends in it, and so we kind of learned as we went, basically, yeah.
Okay, so standalone, and now somebody tell me about transmedia.
Sounds like transgender or
It
something.
does, but it's
It's not as intimidating as it
mutually
sounds.
exclusive.
There's also a huge amount of debate about that term.
That is,
so-
yeah. That's
right?
why it's
Yeah.
So
yeah.
why?
Yeah. Well, let's start there.
Sure. It's storytelling not just across one plane, but in various media. So maybe you have your web series that tells your basic story, and then the characters might have Twitter accounts that also help as companion piece. You might have extra spin-off stories or vlogs from characters. You could have we have Pinterest accounts and whole sites. We have a Kensington Chronicle, the newspaper that the characters in The New Adventures of Peter and Wendy work at, is actually a website for that small town that we've created, Neverland, Ohio. And the character, you can see things that go along with the story as it progresses on there. So it depending on the world, you can create as much depth as you want. It's not new. I mean, Harper's Island which was a show on TV, had Harper's Globe, which was a web series companion piece for it. So it's a way for the people that don't just want to skim the surface and just dabble in the show, that really want the depth of it, to get involved. And the web space is unique in that you have a lot of those fans that really want to like live in it. We have a role-playing community that signed up as members of Neverland, Ohio, like founding members, and role play with their Twitter handles that they've created for their characters, and create shows within this world, or like shops, businesses,
Neverland,
tea
Ohio.
parties. Yeah, it's adorable, but it's impressive.
Well,
Didn't they create a ball at one point, and then
They
you?
did. We made it canon. It was adorable. The role playing community decided they wanted to have a fairy ball in Neverland, Ohio, so they all set a date for it, and they made flyers for it, and like took pictures of their dresses they were going to wear. And we decided to make it canon by, I think the episode that ended right before that was Peter taking Wendy on a date. And so we live tweeted the scavenger hunt date as the characters, and then at the end started posting pictures of I play Wendy Darling in it, and Peter Pan's character, Kyle Walters, going on this hunt and discovering him asking her to the fairy ball. So we brought it into the
Spoiler, she says yes.
But it's all of season 1's out there. You can
But
see it.
I think that the really cool thing about that is, like Paula said and Jenny said, that the web audience is really excited about that sort of thing. But that's another thing that I think we haven't talked about yet, is the audience. And not every show and not every story works that way, right? So it depends on what your demographic is. If you're talking about teenagers or people that are really well versed on the web and watching all their content on the web, that's an audience that's kind of right for that type of show. If your show is being made for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe that's not the type of thing they're interested in, right? So it really depends on, first of all, if you're going to make something online, think about the people that are spending time online and how you find them, and what types of things are they going to be doing? How do they spend their time? And that will kind of inform what you decide to do.
What did that?
Can I talk a little bit about how I decided to do mine? Because it was kind of the opposite of that. I didn't think, like, what is my audience going to be? I just thought I'm a frustrated casting director, and why are British actors taking all the roles away from? So
Australians too.
Yeah, so I wrote The British Invasion, which is about what would happen if an American actor pretended to be British in order to get work. So I just had this in me, and nobody else wanted to hear about it, but I just needed a platform. So I didn't think like, gee, my demographic, and really it could be anyone, and so.
You weren't thinking demographic. You were thinking the joke or the.
I was just thinking somebody needs to make something, and why not me about this?
What about producing Juliet? I mean, what kind of demographic is that, and what do you do about that for that show?
One of the shows that I'm currently producing is called Producing Juliet, and it's about a theater company. We shoot in New York. And for us, we definitely wanted to see if we could tap into the theater audience, the theater goer. Would be our kind of our ideal audience, and so we did create something. One of our other producers, Rochelle Dansell, she came up with the idea to do something called My Stage Story, where we ask our fans to share stories about their favorite theater experience, and we have a website where they post those stories. And so we really try to highlight our fans and the experiences that they've had in their lives. And then also, as we hear stories and comments and feedback from them, we like to kind of highlight those in our marketing materials too, right? And really, 'cause we're there because they want us to be there. We wouldn't continue to make content if we didn't have those people watching. So it's important to us to make sure that they know that we care and we are listening to what they're saying, and giving them feedback and communicating with them and interacting with our audience.
That's what's so cool about the web, is you have this ability to really connect with your audience, and they will follow you anywhere if you really build that loyalty by showing them that you care about them too and interacting with them. And I mean, it's also that eyeballs quotient, in that you can work just as hard and do an amazing short film and travel all year and spend all your money trying to get into every festival, and you might get 2,000 eyes on it, or you could put it online and get that in a few seconds. So it depends why you're making the art and what you want to do with it. But this is such a unique time and exciting time, because you can really harness the power of the fandom.
I've got a question. I'm going to use the term transmedia until somebody tells
Okay.
me why I
definitely.
shouldn't. But if you're creating a show with that in mind, do you then have an audience in mind when you create it necessarily? For example, Adventures of Peter and Wendy seem to have a very specific audience in mind. Is that right?
Well, the nice thing we had. Okay, the nice thing we had for Peter and Wendy is like what Paul is saying is very true. Your audience tends to follow you if you've kind of set up like that you do quality content and that you do transmedia storytelling. So we actually, because I was involved and because Kyle Walters was also the star of Welcome to Sanditon, which was the Pemberley project, we kind of already knew going into it that was at least a starting point.
Right.
That a certain number of people that we knew already loved this type of storytelling was going to follow us.
The lit vlog.
The lit vlog lovers that love to create Twitter accounts, and it's awesome. So yeah,
20-year-old
so we
girls.
weren't starting from zero. And like even with Lonely Girl 15, my experience on Lonely Girl 15 actually really served me when I did Lizzie Bennett, because again, it's a vlog style show. And actually, like all through the years of things I've produced, there's still people I met on Lonely Girl that are still watching my stuff now. And it's amazing. And like we've become really good friends. Like I always know like the next thing I do, I'm like, hey guys, check out my new thing. And they're like, yay, Jenny's doing another thing. Like it's just, as a producer, that's so rewarding, because when do you get that?
Yes.
And they become numbers that are quantifiable when you're asking for money from other people. And the web is also interesting that because you can really identify where certain audiences live. Like if you're doing a show about gaming, you can find sites that specifically target gamers, or MCNs that specifically have all the gamers, like Machinima or something. And your audience is right there if you plug into it.
How do you mean plug into it?
Well, you make something specifically for that audience if you know where it exists.
And how do you let them know that you've made that?
Well, you could meet with that MCN and see if you'd like to join that channel, perhaps.
Oh.
You could, there's so many.
How do I
various ways
join
to
a
do it.
channel?
Join an MCN.
Join an MCN.
Join an MCN.
Multi-channel
What?
network.
How do
It
I do
depends
that?
on the network.
So,
It's a partnership.
Machinima.
Partnership.
It's a business deal. So if you
I see.
know that, and maybe you don't start out knowing what your audience is, but if you realize that maybe Paula's she has an audience that I feel like my story or my show would play well with her audience, then I could say, hey Paula, let's do a deal. Let's split the profits, or let's split whatever we end up with if I can put my show on your channel, right? So
Wait a minute, hold on. I'm just a simple actor, and I know I want to do a particular kind of show, and I've seen it on the web. So I want to be, and it's a transmedia show. What do I do? How do I get involved?
Who's
in
your
that?
audience? Who's
The-
it
okay,
targeted to?
my audience is gamers, say.
Okay, well, if they're gamer boys or gamer girls,
Gamer boys.
Girls might be Geek and Sundry as possible fit. Boys might be Machinima. You would just reach out. You really have to know.
Okay,
the
I go to
landscape.
Machinima, which is
Okay,
guys, right?
Sure. It's mostly dudes, but
Yeah.
it's like 80 million hits a day. Like they're one of the biggest.
So I watch QVG. Would you explain QVG to the audience?
QVG?
Yeah.
Sure. If you've seen QVC, you know what QVG is. It's we're hosting a home sales network where we are selling video game weapon replicas, and we're spoilers dying.
Every
Buy
there are
those
2-minute
weapons every
sequences. At the
episode.
end, there's blood.
One of us
Every
is
time.
killed.
Yeah.
Sometimes both, but always one. Yes.
Definitely for guys.
It's very
Young
targeted
guys.
to that demographic. The comments are the worst things in the world. You grow very thick skin with boys commenting versus the new Peter Wendy crowd, which is 20-year-old intelligent women, and they're wonderful and kind and sweet and make puppets of us. So it's 180. So know your fan base and know what you want to deal with that fan base.
But okay, so I'm still this actor who wants to make this
You
show.
want to make a
for-
gaming show for dudes?
Yeah, and I like QVG.
Okay.
I really love that
Then
show.
you should probably reach out to Brett Register, the director of that.
How do I reach out
You
to
would
Brett?
find him on Twitter, and then you'd be like,
I
Brett,
friend
meet
him on Twitter.
and go to a networking event where he's going to be and start chatting with him.
Right. Or what
Last
do you?
night he was at the YouTube space. That
He
would have
was-
been a perfect
Yeah,
opportunity.
you should have come to YouTube Space.
It's very easy
I
to
have
find.
heard
How do I find out who's going to be at the YouTube space? How do I find out who's going to be at these various places?
There's a happy hour.
Search the hashtag on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's easy to find most of
Yep.
us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, where did they check in? What was the last thing they said they were doing? Does someone tag them somewhere? I don't know. You
Like,
can
we have-
become a stalker very easily.
Yeah. We said we would be here.
Yeah, I told everybody I was here tonight, so.
Right. Okay, now, Michael, you have as far as I can tell, a totally unique way, at least the one web series I saw, of monetizing your web series. Will you explain that?
Yeah, when I did my web series, I know everyone was giving their web series away. People still do, but having a theater background, if we do a play in a telephone booth, we're going to charge something, or ask for donations or something. So I didn't see why I couldn't solicit that from my audience after making the content. So basically, we went with a method. We had 12 episodes, and we really gave people a really good deal. I think at the time you could download a half-hour show for 99 cents. So 3 of our episodes was like 15 minutes. So we did a 3-for-1. 3 episodes for 99 cents for $1, 6 for $2, 9 for $3, 12 for $4.
PayPal.
Through PayPal.
Yes,
And my web designer, designed it, and people started paying.
You took
First
my ba-
friends.
Yep.
People. I went up to my immediate circle the same way you would go and ask for money for your Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Hey, I just did this new thing. Check it out. And also with my theater background, I've been doing theater for 15 years, and I went to that mailing list and hit those people up who'd come to my plays. I said, hey, I've got this new thing, which is what I call the web series, the play that never closes. It's a play that you never have to worry about closing night. It's always on. And then they started coming, and then people I didn't know started coming in, literally $1 at a time, made back the money that was spent. It took 2 years.
Huh.
But I'm not the only one doing it. Other people have done it. There are some guys in Singapore, Jason Chan and Christian Lee. They have a show called Perfect Girl, and the first 5 are free, and the next 5
Like drugs.
are $1.99. So other people have tried this
$1.99,
as well. I'm
right.
not the only person to do it.
Well, and I think the really good thing about the space here is that people are becoming more and more accustomed to subscription and paywalls for content. While a lot of us will probably say we don't necessarily want to be competing with House of Cards, but the idea of paying $10 a month for certain types of content is becoming more mainstream, which for me is exciting because now people are looking at content that they can get through their Apple TV, through their Roku, Hulu. Our shows can be seen through these
Right.
these different devices. We're now next to those shows, and so it's really an exciting place. If you guys, as actors, if you want to be on television, well, guess what? These shows are right next to them now. And so a lot of in the very first web series that I made, the most of us that wanted to make them was because we wanted to get into television. And so for me, the time right now is just very exciting. Web series we're making short form, but we're also making long form content, right? And that's being it's more widely acceptable at this point to be making long form content like the traditional TV shows that we watch.
Yeah, there was a judge at the Geeky Awards, the web series section, and at least 4 of those were 45-minute or longer episodes this year. Where I was like, granted, as a judge, you click on it and you're like, oh, 45 minutes. But they were amazing. So if you really make the quality top notch, and speaking of TV, coming from the acting side of it, like I got into producing to selfishly create roles for myself and my friends, and it sometimes works. And literally, our new Peter and Wendy clips that I just uploaded to my reel, I got my first recurring on the Week this year because of those clips. So they can be a fantastic calling card. They literally cast off the reel.
One
I didn't know
thing
they did
all these shows have in common is they are after SAG new media contracts. And the gentleman at the end of the row, everybody here, you, Will Marshall. And Will, I understand it's really difficult to be a signatory. Yeah.
Sometimes it is, but it's usually a personal problem.
What?
I'm
producing? I've got this gaming show that it's going to be on it's going to be huge. It is going to be huge. It's going to be Transmedia, and I've got
There's gonna be an actual video game that goes with it.
I've got a cast, and they're all after SAG members because, that's I want the best actors I can get. But God, the contract it's such a difficult thing, right? Right?
Well, the new media agreement. So we have an independent new media agreement. By the way, my name is Will Marshall. I'm the manager of the new media department upstairs. So we offer a independent. Thank you. You all were just wondering why I was sitting down here all night, not saying anything.
I was wondering, who is that?
Who is this weird guy? No, so we actually offer a new media agreement to independent producers. There are no minimums in the contract, and what that means is there is no set bottom level of compensation that you have to pay your performers. Everything is negotiable. If you don't have a budget, you can use this agreement and use our performers. We also cover things like House of Cards. So anything from $0 to multi-million-dollar budgets we can cover. And the new media agreement is 4 pages long. It's really simple. There aren't a lot of requirements that you really need to know, other than if you pay your performers, you have to pay in their P&H plan. But again, everything is negotiable. And one point I wanted to make earlier you guys mentioned that you thought that performers should never work for free. In fact, you cannot work for free. As SAG-AFTRA members, on a new media production, the producers can defer your pay. They have to defer at least minimum wage. So never leave a set without a contract that says you're getting paid something or it's all getting deferred, because you have to get paid something or have the expectation that you're going to get paid. And it's federal law because minimum wage laws apply. But yeah, it's really easy. Is my point.
This is what I hear. In fact, this is what I know because the series I almost did had a very
Not bitter.
easy time was
At
getting
all.
the
I
contract.
still don't quite
And then it was
understand what
downhill
happened
from there,
to
man.
your series.
Was it about
Richard wants a
gaming?
role.
I'm telling you, yeah.
I mean,
We
I
just
can
need to add
understand
some
if a
video
TV
games.
show doesn't get picked up, but a web series can just go on YouTube.
You can upload that. Like we can do it right now.
Good upload, yeah. Yeah, without the elevator scene, it won't work. I read a story in the New York Times today about an 18-year-old woman who has a vlog about beauty. 5 hairstyles for starting school. And she's really impressive. I saw the vlog. She's a terrific performer, but that's all she did was to sell 5 hairstyles. So CBS came to her and said, hey, would you do like a scene on, I don't know what, and then plug it on your vlog? And she said, see my people. UTA represents her, one of the biggest agencies in town. Networks are getting very, very involved, have been involved for some time on the web. Frankenstein is a PBS, I guess, is a network, right? How did that happen? What?
Well, I wasn't involved in that deal,
But you
so I
know.
couldn't tell you.
Yes, tell us. Right.
But I mean, for an example of ways that mainstream media are really tapping into the YouTube market,
Yes.
Bethany Moda is on Dancing with the Stars this season. She's a huge beauty vlogger.
That's Bethany Moda.
There you
right,
go.
Right.
So yeah, so and CBS is using it. They're just like, hey, first time we're using a YouTuber.
Yep.
It's huge. There's several vloggers right now who are selling best-selling novels. Grace Helbig, Hannah Hart. So yeah, I mean,
It's numbers. It's quantifiable
Yeah.
numbers. They have an army of fans that, the business sides at UTA and otherwise, because they all rep people, they can translate that to dollars.
You told me CW had been involved for several years, right? And very
CW did the first, they did what was it, Sorority Forever.
Sorority
That was a web series that they sponsored. There were billboards up at like Hollywood and Highland a couple, like 7 years ago, 6 years ago.
Huh.
And that
They were
featured Lonely Girl 15's Jessica Rose and
Yeah.
a number of other people. It was
Yeah.
Big Fantastics production.
Yeah, so it's not that traditional media has not been aware. They always have, and they've kind of dabbled in trying to make it work and to different varying degrees of success. But it seems like this past year is when
Really
things
getting
have
it.
really ramped up. Like,
Yes.
who knew that Hannah Hart would do this show about getting drunk with her friends in a kitchen, and is now a New York Times bestselling
For
author?
weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's times are changing, and
Like they made the joke at the Streamies, right?
They
Like
did.
all the people up here are millionaires, and it wasn't really a joke. Like it was true who some of the people up there were.
And this is,
The
you know,
YouTube
when an
star.
actor is in an ambiguous market like the web is becoming, ambiguous because it could be television at any moment or a movie, this is when he needs his union behind him. This is yet another reason to be sure that you are a signatory yourself as a performer in everything you do on the web. It is possible, right, to do something non-union on the web. That is, not everything is yet organized on the web. Am I correct? If I were to do if somebody were to ask me to do, I don't know, something on the
Like,
Your
a web series about
Transmedia
dudes
game show.
playing video
yeah,
games.
that right. Could I do that non-union
And you're a member?
legally?
Legally?
yeah.
Like legally as in
Union-wise.
federal law or union?
Union law.
Which doesn't exist.
Union law, right?
Jake.
Because they really want to do this show.
Yeah. So if you are a union member, you are not allowed. That's rule number 1. You're not allowed to do non-union work, and that extends to the web. So pretty much anytime you're giving a performance in front of a camera, be it a video camera or a performance capture camera or something like that, it has to be covered. So I would tell you as the member that yes, it has to be covered.
Well, that's good because all my cast mates are
yeah, and
SAG-AFTRA.
I know that you would never work off the card.
No, right.
Uh,
I would not.
I know you
in
would
fact,
not.
yeah.
That was a serious comment. So what I would tell you as the member is that yes, it has to be covered. I would be happy to talk to the producer to let them know how easy it is and how much money it does not cost them.
Right.
And then we would turn that non-union production into a union production.
Here's a question I've always had, and I don't know why I've never asked it to you because I've known you for years. How does that affect vloggers, like people who are being themselves, who don't have a producer, who just turning on a camera and they're talking to it?
Well, it depends on what to do. So if there is any sort of entertainment aspect to it, so yeah, you may be talking about your day, but is this a an actual diary that you don't want anyone to see, or are
Right.
you turning your life story into a production? And then if you are a member, we would cover that, and we wouldn't cover people that if you had someone like a guest or something on, those roles would not be covered, but the person in front of the camera would be covered.
Something that was said earlier regarding the web series is actually there was an article in the Huffington Post about 3 days ago about what Netflix and Amazon Prime are doing to at least the big players with the web, that they're not really interested as much in short form web series, that they're actually trying to compete with television because of the success of Netflix, because of the success of Amazon, not to the same degree. And so you see companies like Yahoo and AOL
Yeah.
making half-hour shows for the web, which they can then later sell to television. They almost kind of going back the other way.
And they have lots of money.
And they have tons of money. Yahoo's got billions. And they have divisions now set up for that. They're recruiting people from television, like, for example, the guy, Mike Tolan, is doing a show for them, a half-hour show based in Las Vegas, a basketball show, with a basketball backdrop that's going to be out next year. And there are some other shows that they're doing, but they're going to traditional, yeah, people.
Yeah, I think you invited us to some.
Which I find ironic that they're not going to a lot. The independents are still doing web series because that's what they can afford, but I'm really surprised actually that the Yahoos and AOLs aren't tapping that talent as much.
They're getting there. They're getting
They're
there. I
slow.
think it's a really exciting and interesting time to be a producer in the web space, and you can find ways to make money. But it is a little scary as an actor because you see how it could just completely. It looks like the trajectory is to most of the stuff's going to start to live on the web as Netflix and stuff like that grows, and I don't know how we make that work with residuals and the middle class actors. That part is scary as on the actor side, but as a producer, I'm like, yes. But yeah, it's different.
Speak to
I
that,
can speak
Will
to you
Marshall.
from the actor's perspective. So things like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, they don't sign the independent everything's negotiable agreement. And until recently, until this past negotiations where we actually established a contract for these sort of premium what's called subscription video on demand things, we would negotiate independently with each production for terms that were sort of on par with television. And now, after the last round of negotiations in July, we actually have an agreement that sets television rates and terms for those higher budget productions.
Including residuals, or is that just
Including
day rate?
residuals.
Including residual.
Impressive.
Extraordinary. Yeah,
You
It
will.
was actually a very, very good deal.
it's a coup. Yeah.
I was not involved with the negotiation, so I can't
Yeah.
take
So,
credit.
well, thank you.
But if you clap, I'll tell my boss.
He's applauding his union.
They did a great job. So.
Do you feel better, Paula?
I feel a little bit like that.
Okay,
At least
good.
there's now some sort of precedent for them to work forward. Because for a while it was like, well, enjoy it while you
it's
can.
television,
residuals.
television
Yeah.
residuals,
Wow.
basically.
I mean, I've pitched shows to Amazon and stuff now. They are like taking a lot of independent producers. If you show your calling card of previous web series, you can get in the door and really have some amazing meetings. Like Amazon has that pilot program where they take like 5 each season and they let the audience vote on which ones move forward, sort of, which is amazing. I don't know.
Are you acquainted with that? Does that ring a bell? Explain that.
So they pretty much crowdsource in a way their content. Yeah, they're literally like having people come to them with shows. They'll give you money to make a pilot. You make the pilot, and then they narrow it down a little bit, and then they put them up, and the audience votes on which ones actually become shows on their site. And it's amazing.
Which
a lot
are
of kid
then
shows and stuff
subject
like that.
to, well, they are already subject to the new contract,
Oh,
right? Just
yeah,
as
they would
those
be.
A
5
trailer,
shows.
and then
Yeah.
the trailer leads to the pilot.
Right.
But again, if you really look at who they're giving the deals to, they're giving them to traditional TV people.
Yeah,
They're
true.
going to that, and then the shows they're
More and more
greenlighting,
white
like
people
Gwyneth
coming in.
Paltrow's show and the woman from Friends.
A lot of our web stuff looks like that now.
Lisa Kudrow. They're going for that star power. Okay, people, familiar faces. It reminds me of home video 30 years ago when you could go to that video store and buy a video from an unknown director, unknown actors, and people were just so into video, hey, watching something at
Yeah,
home.
right.
And then as the market matured, then it started becoming more of a star-driven market, and those other ones. So it's something I think we have to look out for, be aware of.
Paula, what were you and Kathy were saying something?
Well, I was kind of saying like the Amazon pilots I've watched, they're huge productions. I mean, it's hard as an actor, it's hard to get on those shows. It's
As
like,
hard as it is to get on
like
television.
trying to get on House of Cards, good luck. It's really hard. These are highly produced, so I was
If you're
just talking
thinking
about-
web series like Lonely Girl, like where we started and stuff, it's not that. The bar is really high now if you watch. And I was saying, like, yes, you're right. It's not House of Cards that for the most part we're doing on these. But if you watch some of the shows that are winning awards, which I guess is a cheat sheet, you can literally go see what the Streamies, IAW TV, the Webbies, what's winning awards in the web series categories, and just watch those if you want a crash course into the industry or what's out there. And you'll see the level of this is TV level. It's amazing. It's not like you're watching, this cute little web series my friend did. It's like, no, these people know what they're doing, and they know how to do it quickly and well and really cheaply, and that's why we're getting picked up into traditional media as well now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are getting deals with it.
All right, we have got to be
Thank you.
out of this room. However, there is a lobby, and if you can cluster around, maybe some people can be asked questions. Thanks.